Wherever you are right now, before training, after work, resting at home, or preparing for a big challenge, this is your moment. A moment to slow down, a moment to clear the noise, a moment to focus on the one thing that matters, getting better. Tonight, you're stepping into the constraint-led approach, the ecological way of learning, a way that doesn't rely on lifeless repetition, but instead throws you into live, ever-changing situations that force real skill to emerge. It's how some of the best in the world train, and it can reshape the way you approach every round, every session, every fight. Before we start, treat this as a conversation. If something here connects with you, a story, an idea, a shift in perspective, keep it close, try it in your own training, and share it with someone who could use it. That way, what you take from this doesn't just stay with you, it spreads. And in the description, you'll find the sources and books that inspired this approach. They've helped athletes unlock new levels in their performance, and they can do the same for you. Also, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from, what belt or level you are, and how long you've been training. I read them all, and it's always inspiring to see who's here on this journey. Chapter 1: The Spark of Adaptive Learning. Every journey starts with a moment, a spark, that pulls you in deeper than you expected. Maybe it was the first time you stepped onto the mat and realized how much there was to learn. Or maybe it was the moment you lost, and in losing, saw the size of the mountain you still had to climb. In the ecological approach, that spark is your most valuable asset. It's the fuel for everything that comes next. And the way you protect it isn't by staying comfortable. It's by throwing yourself into live, unpredictable scenarios where growth is the only option. Picture this. You're stuck under crushing top pressure, your ribs compressed, your breath shallow, your usual escapes aren't there. Then, in the middle of that storm, you notice something, a shift in weight, a grip that loosens, a fraction of space. You act, you escape. That wasn't a memorized move. That was awareness under fire. That's the spark. Bruce Lee said, "Absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is uniquely your own." This isn't just a quote, it's the blueprint for your growth. In every live round, you'll collect what works, let go of what fails, and sharpen the tools that feel natural in your hands. There's a Japanese proverb that says, "Fall 7 times and stand up 8. In this way of training, each time you stand with new solutions. You stand having learned something your future self will thank you for. The spark isn't the finish line, it's the ignition. The moment you understand that every problem hides an answer and that you'll only find it by moving, adapting, and staying present. Once you've felt it, you'll never settle for lifeless training again, because you'll know exactly what it feels like to grow in real time, in real chaos, and you'll keep chasing that feeling. If you want to spark that growth even faster, check the description for the books and sources waiting there. They've helped athletes and fighters unlock breakthroughs that once felt out of reach, and they can help you do the same. Chapter 2: Constraints Create Freedom. At first, a constraint feels like a limitation. You remove a grip, limit a position, or add a strange rule, and suddenly it feels like your game is shrinking. Your usual tools are gone, your comfort zone is gone, and your instincts scream for the old, familiar paths. But in the ecological approach, constraints aren't cages. They're keys. Keys that unlock movement, creativity, and problem-solving you'd never have found otherwise. Imagine this. You're only allowed to attack from half guard. At first, it feels like a handicap, but round after round, you start noticing angles, grips, and sweeps that were invisible before. Your half guard sharpens, your timing improves. You start finding ways to threaten opponents who used to pass you with ease. Now imagine you can only pass while standing. No dropping to your knees, no stalling. Your footwork sharpens. Your balance becomes second nature. You learn to read your partner's hips like a book because every stumble could cost you the pass. That's the power of constraints. They remove the noise and force you to explore new territory. And this doesn't just live on the mats. A limited budget forces smarter planning. Limited time forces sharper focus. An injury forces you to strengthen parts of your game you've ignored for too long. Constraints cut away the excess and sharpen what remains. When you train like this, every rule you set for yourself creates a miniature world, a live scenario where you have to adapt on the fly. Your training partner isn't cooperating. They're resisting, adapting, and forcing you to evolve with them. This isn't shadowboxing with a compliant partner. This is problem solving against a living, thinking opponent who's trying to shut you down. Without constraints, we all drift back toward comfort. The same grip, the same sweep, the same escape. But comfort is the enemy of growth. When you remove those easy options, you force yourself to see the map differently, and every new route you discover stays in your game forever. Here's your challenge for the next time you train. Pick one constraint and stick to it for an entire live round. Maybe you only attack one side. Maybe you can only finish with submissions from a specific family. Maybe you only escape by regaining full guard. At first, it'll feel awkward. Then, it'll become a puzzle, and you'll start solving it in ways you never imagined. The great advantage is this. When the restriction is lifted, everything feels easier. You've been operating under pressure in a smaller space with fewer tools, and when those tools come back, your options multiply. You become harder to read, harder to stop, harder to predict. This is what great athletes understand. Skill isn't built in comfort. It's forged in the fire of challenges that stretch you in every direction. Constraints aren't there to hold you back. They're there to sharpen your edge. Chapter 3. Perception before action. Every move you make starts long before your body moves. It starts with what you see, what you feel, what you notice in the space between you and your opponent. In the ecological approach, perception comes before action. If you can't read the game, you can't play it at the highest level. And if your awareness is narrow, your options will always be narrow. Think about it. Two athletes can face the exact same opponent in the exact same position, and one sees nothing, while the other sees 10 different opportunities. The difference isn't strength. It isn't speed. It's perception. When you roll live, every shift in your opponent's balance, every change in their breathing, every subtle grip fight is a signal. Most people ignore those signals because they're too busy thinking about the move they want to hit. But the best, they notice everything. They let the situation speak to them before they decide how to act. Here's an example. Your opponent is pressuring hard from top half guard. You could try your usual underhook to get up, but you notice their posting hand is drifting too far forward. That's an opening. A small one, but it's enough. You switch direction, trap the hand, and suddenly you're on their back. That sequence didn't come from guessing. It came from reading, from letting perception guide your choice. And the more you train this way, the more those reads become automatic. The trap most athletes fall into is training moves in isolation without the chaos that forces them to read situations in real time. They do reps without the opponent changing speed, pressure, or reaction, and they never develop the reflex to see the game as it really is. You can change that by designing your training around perception first. Set constraints where you have to react to specific cues, a change in weight, a grip break, a foot placement. Run live scenarios where your only job is to notice and respond. The goal isn't to win the drill, it's to sharpen your awareness so much that action becomes inevitable. Over time, this awareness spreads to every part of your game. Your guard passes become tighter because you can feel when the opponent's base is weak. Your defense becomes harder to crack because you sense threats earlier. You start setting traps because you know exactly what your opponent sees, and you can control what they don't see. When perception leads, action follows with less hesitation, less wasted motion, and more precision. You're no longer forcing moves. You're responding to what's there, and that makes you unpredictable. Next time you roll, give yourself one goal: notice more. See the grips, feel the weight shifts, catch the micro movements before they turn into full attacks. If you make this your habit, your game will grow faster than you think possible. In the description, I've linked resources on building perception in live training. They've helped athletes learn to read the game at a level where the right move almost feels obvious, and they can help you do the same. Chapter 4. Repetition without repetition. The old model of training worships repetition. Do it again, and again, and again. Same move, same setup, same reaction, until it's perfect. But here's the problem. The fight will never give you the same situation twice. Opponents are unpredictable, angles change, timing shifts, grips break, pressure changes. And if you've only rehearsed one version, you'll freeze the moment the fight doesn't match the script. In the ecological approach, repetition still matters, but not in the way most people think. We repeat the goal, not the exact same movement. We practice under a variety of conditions so that no matter how the situation changes, the skill still works. This is repetition without repetition. Picture this. You're working on guard retention. Instead of drilling one escape on a compliant partner, you set up live rounds where your training partner tries to pass in different ways every time. Fast passes, slow pressure, unexpected grip switches. Now you're forced to adapt in the moment. And each rep is slightly different, but the core goal remains the same. Keep your guard. Or think about finishing an armbar. One day your opponent is fighting with explosive strength, yanking their arm free. The next day, they're patient, hiding their defense until the last second. You adjust each time, changing grips, shifting angles, attacking from unexpected entries. The repetition is still there, but it's alive. This kind of training creates adaptable skill. It's the reason the best athletes seem to just figure it out mid-match. They're not relying on a stored template. They're pulling from a library of live experiences that prepared them for dozens of variations. Here's how you can apply it. Choose the skill you want to develop, passing, sweeping, escaping, and design rounds where each attempt forces you to solve it in a slightly different way. Change your training partners, change the grips they use, change the rules of engagement. Make sure no two attempts are exactly alike. At first, it's messy. You'll fail more often than you succeed, but that's exactly the point. Every failure is a new rep that expands your awareness of what can happen and how you can respond. By the time you've seen 100 variations, the chaos no longer feels like chaos. You're calm, you've been there before, just in a slightly different way, and your opponent's surprise becomes just another situation you've already trained for. Repetition without repetition turns skill into instinct. It takes you from knowing one way to win to knowing 100 ways, and when the stakes are highest, that adaptability is what will save you. Chapter 5. The Feedback Loop. Every round you train gives you a choice. You can walk away with just sweat, or you can walk away with information. In the ecological approach, feedback is the bridge between effort and improvement. It's what turns a random roll into a lesson you can use tomorrow. Without feedback, you're just collecting hours. With feedback, you're collecting answers. The feedback loop starts the moment a round ends. You think about what happened, not in a vague, I got caught way, but in a specific, what patterns led to that way. You replay moments in your mind, looking for cues you missed, openings you didn't take, mistakes you made twice without realizing. Maybe you notice you keep losing your base when passing to the left, or that you hesitate every time your opponent switches grips on your collar. Those aren't random, they're signals pointing straight to what needs work. And once you see them, you can design the next round to attack that weakness directly. The loop isn't just self-reflection, it's also external feedback. That might mean asking your training partner what they felt during the role. It might mean having a coach watch your footage and point out patterns you didn't notice. Sometimes they'll tell you things you'd never have picked up on yourself, the way you always step the same foot first, or the way your posture changes when you're tired. The best athletes don't wait for competition to reveal their weaknesses. They find them in training and address them before the stakes are high. They treat every round as a data-gathering mission. Every escape their partner makes, every grip that breaks, every failed attempt, all of it goes into the loop. And here's where it gets powerful. Once you have feedback, you can immediately re-enter the loop. You run the same position again, but now you're armed with the insight from last time. You make the adjustment, see if it works, and either keep it or change it again. This rapid cycle of trial, feedback, and adaptation accelerates skill development faster than any static drilling ever could. In other words, the loop keeps you honest. If you're not improving, it will show you why. If you are improving, it will show you exactly what's driving it. There's no guesswork, just constant input and adjustment. To make this part of your own training, try this after your next session. Pick one skill you want to improve and keep it in mind before the round starts. Pay close attention to every moment it comes up during live training. After the round, think of one specific thing that worked well and one thing that didn't. Adjust based on that insight, then go straight into your next round with the change in place. Do this consistently, and you'll start noticing patterns faster, fixing weaknesses before they become habits, and building strengths that actually hold up under pressure. In the description, I've linked resources that explain how top athletes and coaches use feedback loops to fast-track their progress. Use them, and you'll stop guessing about your training. You'll know exactly what's working and why. Chapter 6. Adapting under pressure. Pressure is where most games fall apart. It's where the plan stops working, where your breathing changes, where your focus starts to narrow until all you see is the problem in front of you. The ecological approach doesn't just prepare you for perfect conditions, it prepares you for the moment when everything is going wrong, when the opponent is dictating the pace, when you're physically uncomfortable, when there's no time to think. Under real pressure, the only skills that survive are the ones you've stress-tested. If you've only practiced in calm, predictable situations, you'll crumble when the storm hits. But if you've been training inside the storm, deliberately putting yourself there, you learn to adapt. Think about being stuck in side control against someone heavier, stronger, and relentless. Your old plan to frame and hip escape isn't working. They've shut it down. In that moment, you have two choices. You can freeze and hope they make a mistake, or you can shift, change the timing, create a scramble, and find an opening that wasn't there a second ago. Adapting under pressure isn't about magic techniques. It's about mindset and habit. It's learning to keep scanning for options even while your body is under stress. It's trusting your ability to improvise because you've done it before, in training, against resistance. One of the best ways to build this skill is to start in bad positions. Have your partner put you in mount, on your back, or locked in a submission setup. Then fight your way out live. You'll fail a lot at first, and that's good, because every failure shows you the adjustments you need, and every small success proves that pressure can be managed. The more you train this way, the less panic you feel when it happens for real. You'll recognize the sensation of being trapped, and instead of tightening up, you'll start hunting for micro opportunities, a grip that loosens, a shift in weight, a moment when your opponent adjusts their balance. Those little cracks are where escapes are born. Pressure also reveals your physical habits, how you breathe, how you tense, how you waste energy. The ecological method lets you expose those habits and replace them with better ones. You learn to breathe even when compressed. You learn to move efficiently when space is limited. You learn to stay calm while your opponent tries to drown you in control. Here's something to try next time you roll. Start in one of your worst positions. Make your only goal to stay calm and keep moving, no matter how bad it feels. Don't think about winning the round. Think about collecting as many small adjustments and escapes as possible. The round is a success if you end it knowing exactly what worked, what failed, and what to try next. Over time, this will change the way you see pressure. It won't feel like a wall anymore. It'll feel like a puzzle, one you've solved before in dozens of ways and can solve again in real time. Chapter 7. The Role of Variability. If your training always looks the same, your performance will always look the same. That might sound fine until you face someone who doesn't fit the script you've been rehearsing. The ecological approach treats variability as fuel for growth. It's not about chaos for chaos's sake. It's about giving your nervous system a wide library of experiences so it can adapt faster under any condition. Think about guard passing. If you only ever pass against people your size, moving at the same speed, you'll develop a narrow game that works until it doesn't. But start passing against bigger opponents, smaller opponents, aggressive scramblers, slow grinders, and suddenly your game has layers. You know how to handle each type because you've seen them all in live training. This variability doesn't just mean changing training partners. It means changing everything around the skill you're working on. Switch the pace, switch the starting position, change the size of the mat space, make the rounds short and explosive or long and draining. Every variation forces your brain to solve the same problem in a different way, and that's what builds adaptability. In traditional drilling, the goal is to make every rep identical. In the ecological method, the goal is to keep the objective the same, but change the path to get there. If the objective is pass the guard, one round might demand tight pressure passing, the next might demand explosive movement, and another might require baiting the opponent into a trap. Each attempt builds a different piece of the puzzle. Here's a way to apply it. Pick a single goal for the round, like sweeping from open guard. Change something about the environment each round. Maybe you limit grips. Maybe you start with one knee down and one up. Maybe your partner is only defending and never counter-attacking, or maybe they're going full offense from the start. Let each variation teach you a new route to the same destination. What you'll notice is that your reactions become sharper and your confidence grows. When an opponent does something unexpected, you won't freeze, because unexpected is normal to you now. This is also how you prepare for the unknowns of competition. You can't predict exactly how an opponent will move, but you can train to be ready for anything. Variability keeps your game alive, keeps your mind flexible, and keeps you evolving instead of repeating the same stale patterns. In the description, I've linked examples of variability-based training rounds used by high-level grapplers and coaches. Study them, adapt them to your own training, and you'll notice the difference the next time someone tries to throw you off your game. Chapter 8. The Power of Task Simplification. When people hear simplify, they often think make it easy. But in the ecological approach, task simplification doesn't mean lowering the challenge. It means stripping away distractions so you can focus on the heart of the skill. The mats can be overwhelming. Your opponent is moving, grips are fighting, positions are shifting, and before you know it, you're reacting out of habit instead of learning something new. Task simplification lets you slow the chaos just enough to see the important details. Think about learning guard retention. Instead of rolling from a full match where guard only comes up occasionally, you start every round with your partner already halfway through a pass. Your job is simple. Stop the pass and recover guard. No points, no submissions, no transitions. Just this one clear objective. Or maybe you want to develop your ability to take the back, rather than starting from standing or playing guard for minutes just to get one chance. You start in a near backtake position. Your task is clear. Finish the backtake before your partner escapes. That focus accelerates learning because every rep is directly tied to the skill you want to improve. The key here is that you're not removing resistance. You're removing irrelevance. By simplifying the task, you can pour all your attention into solving that one problem under live conditions. You get more meaningful reps in less time, and you see progress faster. Task simplification also helps with confidence. It breaks big, intimidating goals into smaller battles you can win. Instead of thinking, I need to survive an entire match with this higher belt, you think, I need to defend this one position for 30 seconds. Once you can do that, you expand the challenge. This keeps your growth steady instead of overwhelming. Here's how you can use task simplification in your own training. First, choose a single position or skill you want to sharpen. Then, start every round already inside that position so you get maximum reps. Remove everything that isn't directly related to that skill: scoring, submissions, unrelated transitions. And finally, keep it live and resistant, but keep it specific. Over time, you'll notice that when that position comes up in a real role, it feels familiar. Your timing is sharper, your confidence is higher, and your reactions are faster because you've lived in that moment hundreds of times before. The best athletes in the world use this method constantly. They identify a weakness, simplify the task to target it directly, and live in that environment until the weakness turns into a strength. You can do the same, starting today. Chapter 9. Affordances and Opportunities. In the ecological approach, we talk a lot about affordances, the opportunities for action that exist in any moment. An affordance isn't a move, it's a possibility, a door that's open, waiting for you to step through. The tricky part is that these doors don't stay open for long. An opponent shifts their weight, and the opening appears. A hand drifts out of position, and you have a chance to attack. A base becomes unstable, and a sweep becomes possible. If you see it late, it's gone. If you act too early, you might run into resistance. The skill is in reading the moment and timing your action perfectly. Most athletes miss opportunities not because they lack technique, but because they never learned to recognize the moment to use it. That's why in the ecological method, you spend so much time in live, unscripted training, because the chaos forces your brain to scan for openings constantly. You learn to read balance, posture, tension, and intent. The more you see, the more options you have. Think about someone leaning too far forward while trying to pass your guard. A less trained eye just sees pressure. But a sharp eye sees a triangle entry, a back take, or even a simple push to break their base. It's the same position, but two completely different reactions based on awareness. The beauty of affordances is that they're personal. Two athletes might see the same opening and choose entirely different paths. One might attack a submission, the other might create a scramble. Your own style, body type, and preferences shape which opportunities feel most natural to you. To train this skill, adjust your own training so it's designed to expose you to more potential openings. Start in positions where your opponent has a small but exploitable weakness. Maybe their balance is slightly compromised, or their grips aren't fully set. Instead of rushing to a preset move, give yourself a second to scan and pick the best option in that moment. You'll start to notice that the more you do this, the faster and more instinctive it becomes. Another way is to intentionally give your opponent a false sense of security. Leave a hand where they want it. Show them a gap you're ready to close. Bait them into moving the way you want. Then take the opportunity when it comes. The highest level players aren't just reacting to affordances, they're creating them. Chapter 10. The Self-Organizing Athlete. In the ecological approach, the goal isn't to turn you into a copy of someone else's game. The goal is to help you become self-organizing, able to solve problems in real time, in your own way, under any conditions. A self-organizing athlete doesn't freeze when things don't go to plan. They don't rely on one perfect setup or one narrow chain of moves. Instead, they adapt, not because they memorized the answer, but because they've learned how to find the answer while under pressure. Think about two athletes caught in the same bad position. One starts running through a checklist of pre-planned escapes, but as soon as the opponent changes their grip, they're lost. The other adjusts instantly, shifting their hips, changing their angle, using whatever movement the position allows to start building an escape. That second athlete isn't lucky. They've trained in a way that forces constant problem solving. Their body and mind have learned how to reorganize on the fly. Self-organization is built through exposure, not memorization. It comes from rolling in unpredictable situations with constantly changing resistance against opponents who refuse to follow a script. Every time you face a new puzzle and work through it live, you're teaching your body how to adapt faster the next time. You can train this deliberately. Start in positions you're not comfortable in. Roll with training partners who have completely different styles. Let them throw unexpected reactions at you. Instead of trying to force your move every time, work on reading the situation and finding any move that works. This doesn't mean abandoning your core game. It means strengthening it by making it more flexible. If you're a guard player, you should know how to turn failed guard entries into sweeps, submissions, or transitions to other guards. If you're a top player, you should know how to turn a lost position into a scramble that gets you back on track. Every adjustment you make mid-roll is a step toward becoming self-organizing. In competition, this is one of the biggest separators between winners and everyone else. The match never goes exactly as planned. The ones who adapt in real time, calmly, confidently, without hesitation, are the ones who find a way to win. And that skill doesn't come from drilling in isolation. It comes from learning to play the game as it is, not as you wish it would be. In the description, I've linked examples of self-organization in action, matches where an athlete seemed cornered, only to shift, adapt, and completely reverse the situation. Study them, train this way, and you'll see your ability to adapt grow with every session. Chapter 11. Information, not instruction. Most athletes have been taught to wait for instructions. They look to the coach for the next step. They want the exact grip, the exact foot placement, the exact angle, every detail handed to them. But in the ecological approach, the goal isn't to turn you into a follower. It's to make you an independent decision maker. That means training in an environment that gives you information, not just instructions. Information is what you get from the situation itself. It's the feedback your opponent gives you through their movement, pressure, balance, and intent. When your training is designed around live scenarios, the environment becomes the coach, and the lesson is built into the problem you're trying to solve. Think about trying to pass a guard where your partner is constantly switching grips and angles. No one needs to tell you when to change your approach. The guard player's reactions tell you. If your pressure is working, they frame harder. If your movement is sharp, they scramble. Each of those reactions is information you can use instantly. When you train this way, you learn to self-correct in the moment. If you feel your balance breaking, you adjust. If you sense your opponent pulling you into a trap, you shift your weight or change direction. You stop waiting for someone to tell you what to do. You act because the situation demands it. This doesn't mean the coach disappears. In the ecological method, the coach's job is to design the environment so the right information is unavoidable. Instead of saying, "Put your hand here," they create a constraint where putting your hand anywhere else will fail. Instead of saying, "Don't turn your back," they set up a scenario where turning your back results in instant exposure. The situation teaches the lesson. You can build this into your own training. Instead of asking for step-by-step instructions every time you struggle, try to read what the position is telling you. Where is the pressure? Where is the space? What's the next likely movement your opponent will make? If you can answer those questions mid-roll, you're already learning from the information the environment is giving you. Over time, you'll start trusting your instincts more. You won't freeze when things go off script because you're used to reading the situation and finding your own answers. And when you do get coaching, it won't just be, "Do this." It will be, "Here's how to read this moment better," which makes you even sharper the next time. Chapter 12. The Role of Constraints. In most training, constraints are seen as limits, something that holds you back. In the ecological approach, constraints aren't a cage. They're the blueprint for growth. A constraint is anything that shapes the way you solve a problem. It could be the rules of a drill. It could be the size of the mat space. It could be a grip you're not allowed to use, or a position you must start from. By changing constraints, you change the way your body and mind search for solutions. Think about training guard passing when you're only allowed to use one grip. At first, it feels restrictive, frustrating, even, but soon you start noticing new angles, new footwork, and subtle ways to break balance you never paid attention to before. The constraint forced you to find different answers. Or imagine rolling in a very small space. Suddenly, explosive movements that you rely on are off the table. You have to switch to tighter, more efficient control. Your game adapts because the constraint demands it. The magic of constraints is that they guide your attention without the need for constant verbal coaching. Instead of your coach telling you, "Don't do this," or "Focus on that," the design of the round itself pushes you toward the right behaviors. It's learning by doing, with the environment itself as the teacher. You can apply this yourself. Pick a skill you want to develop and set 1 or 2 simple constraints that force you to explore new solutions. Maybe you start in a disadvantaged position every round. Maybe you can only use one type of guard. Maybe you roll against training partners who are told to play a style that gives you trouble. The constraint keeps you honest. It won't let you fall back into your comfort zone. Over time, you'll notice something important. When the constraint is removed, your game feels sharper, more creative, and more adaptable. That's because you've spent time in a focused learning environment that magnified specific skills. Now those skills follow you into every role. The best athletes in the world don't train with complete freedom all the time. They put themselves inside specific boundaries that force growth, and then they break those boundaries once the skill is ready. It's a cycle of focused constraint and free application. Chapter 13: Perception, Action, Coupling. In Jiu-Jitsu, the ability to act at the right moment is everything. You can have perfect technique on paper, but if your timing is off, it won't land. That's where perception-action coupling comes in. Perception-action coupling is the link between what you see and what you do. It's your ability to read the environment, recognize an opening, and act without hesitation. The key word is coupling. Perception and action are tied together. When one happens, the other follows naturally. In traditional training, perception and action are often separated. You might drill a sweep for 20 minutes without an opponent resisting, so your action becomes disconnected from the real cues you'll see in a live roll. When you get into a real exchange, the movement doesn't feel the same because you never practiced reading the actual triggers. The ecological method fixes that by making sure every rep is connected to the real cues you'll face in live training. Instead of drilling a triangle in isolation, you practice it when the opponent is actually trying to pass, frame, or break your grips. You don't just learn the movement, you learn the moment. Think about passing guard. If you only drill the knee cut without resistance, you'll hit it in the same way every time. But in live training, the guard player's reactions change everything. Sometimes the underhook is there, sometimes it's not. Sometimes they frame hard, sometimes they switch to a different guard entirely. By training in that live environment, you start coupling your perception of their reactions with the right passing option instantly. You can train this deliberately. Put yourself in a specific position, like trying to finish from mount, and have your partner change their defense every few seconds. Your job is to read what's available and attack without overthinking. This forces you to keep your eyes, your feel, and your actions connected in real time. The more you train with perception-action coupling in mind, the less you'll rely on memorized sequences. You won't be waiting for your favorite setup to appear. You'll simply take what's there because your body knows how to respond the moment you recognize the cue. This is why elite grapplers look so fast. It's not just speed, it's the absence of hesitation. They've linked their perception of openings to immediate action so tightly that it feels like instinct. That's not magic, that's training design. Chapter 14: Adaptability as a Superpower. If there's one skill that separates great grapplers from everyone else, it's adaptability. Strength fades, speed slows down. Even your favorite techniques can be shut down by someone who knows them as well as you do. But adaptability, the ability to adjust on the fly, is the skill that lasts a lifetime. Adaptability isn't about having 100 techniques memorized. It's about being able to take the tools you do have and bend them to fit whatever situation is in front of you. It's being calm when the plan changes. It's being confident that even if you don't know what's coming next, you can figure it out as you go. The ecological approach builds adaptability by exposing you to uncertainty constantly. You're not just training for the perfect version of a move. You're training for the messy, unpredictable version that happens in real life. Every round becomes a lab where you test how your skills hold up when things don't go perfectly. Think about working your favorite sweep. In drilling, it might work every time. In live training, sometimes you only get halfway there. Sometimes they post their hand in a way you didn't expect. Sometimes they counter and put you in danger. In an ecological environment, those failures aren't the end of the rep. They're the start of a new problem to solve. You pivot, adjust, and keep attacking until you either succeed or learn why you didn't. Adaptability also means knowing when to abandon a path completely. If you're passing and the pressure route is shut down, you switch to movement. If movement isn't working, you bait a reaction. You're constantly reshaping your strategy to fit the moment instead of trying to force the moment to fit your strategy. You can build this into your training easily. Start by giving your partner more freedom in how they defend. Tell them to switch defenses mid-round or to intentionally surprise you with a style you're not used to. Your only job is to keep finding ways to stay effective no matter what they throw at you. The more you do this, the more adaptable you become, not just technically, but mentally. You stop panicking when something unexpected happens. Instead, you lean into it, knowing it's just another puzzle to solve. That confidence changes everything in competition, because no opponent can throw you something you haven't already experienced in training. In this video, I've included examples of high-level matches where adaptability won the fight. Watch how these athletes shift their approach in real time, and you'll see why adaptability is more than a skill, it's a superpower. Chapter 15: Nonlinear Progression. Progress in Jiu-Jitsu is not a straight line. You don't just get a little better every day in neat, predictable steps. Some days you feel unstoppable. Other days it feels like you've forgotten everything you know. This is non-linear progression, and it's not a flaw. It's how real learning works. In the ecological approach, we embrace the fact that growth comes in bursts, dips, and sudden jumps. You might struggle with a skill for weeks, barely feeling improvement, and then, in one round, it suddenly clicks. That overnight improvement didn't happen overnight. It was built from all the messy, frustrating reps before it. This is why you can't judge your progress by looking at a single day or week. Your brain and body are constantly adapting, even when you can't see it in real time. Sometimes that adaptation requires you to be uncomfortable, to fail repeatedly, to test the edges of what you can do until you break through. Think about learning guard passing. At first, every guard player shuts you down. Then one day, you find yourself in the right position with the right pressure and you pass cleanly. That moment is the result of dozens, maybe hundreds, of failed attempts where your nervous system was quietly collecting information. In traditional thinking, those failures might feel like wasted time. In ecological training, they're essential. Each one gives you data about what works, what doesn't, and how to adapt. Without them, the breakthrough moment would never come. You can train with non-linear progression in mind by taking the pressure off winning every round. Instead, focus on whether you're exposing yourself to the situations you need to grow. If you're working on escaping mount, a day where you get stuck 20 times is actually more valuable than a day where you never end up there. The struggle is the work. When you understand this, you stop being discouraged by the dips. You know they're part of the process, sometimes the most important part. You keep showing up because you trust that the progress you can't see yet is still happening. In the description, I've linked examples of elite athletes talking about how their biggest breakthroughs came after long plateaus or setbacks. Watch them and remember, the path isn't straight, but it's still moving forward. Chapter 16, Redefining Failure. In most gyms, failure is treated like something to avoid. Tap too much, you're losing. Get swept, you're behind. But in the ecological approach, failure isn't a dead end. It's the fastest route to learning. Every time you fail in training, you collect information you could never get from a clean, uncontested rep. You learn where your timing breaks. You feel what real resistance does to your structure. You see the exact moment your opponent's move starts working. Those are lessons you can't get if you only train in situations where you're already in control. Think about a round where you spend most of the time defending submissions. It's easy to feel discouraged, but if you reframe it, that's a goldmine of data. You're learning what each setup feels like from the inside. You're building awareness of the subtle cues that tell you a finish is coming. You're developing the calm needed to survive long enough to find an escape. In ecological training, we actually design sessions where failure is inevitable. You might start in a fully locked submission and have only one goal: survive as long as possible or find the smallest opening to escape. You might start down on points in a mock match with 1 minute left and have to take big risks. You might face an opponent who's been told to only attack your weakest position. In each of these scenarios, losing is built in, but so is growth. The key is to separate failure in training from failure in competition. In training, the scoreboard doesn't matter, the lesson does. If you tap, you reset and go again. If you get swept, you start building the counter. The more comfortable you are failing in practice, the more fearless you become when it counts. This mindset shift frees you. You stop clinging to safe positions just to win the round. You start hunting for challenges because you know that's where the real improvement hides. And when you do win, it's not because you avoided failure, it's because you've used it as a training partner all along. In the description, I've linked examples of high-level athletes who openly train in situations where they fail over and over again. They understand what most people don't, that failure is just feedback, and the fastest way to sharpen your game is to seek it out. Chapter 17, Building Game Sense. Game sense is more than knowing techniques. It's the ability to read the match, to see patterns, anticipate reactions, and make the right choice before your opponent even realizes what's happening. It's like having a map of the fight in your head while everyone else is wandering blind. In the ecological approach, game sense is built by immersing yourself in realistic, live situations where you have to constantly make decisions. Instead of memorizing fixed sequences, you're learning to adapt to the shifting landscape of a role. This is how you develop that sixth sense people talk about when they watch elite grapplers. Think about guard passing. Without game sense, you just try your favorite pass over and over, whether it's there or not. With game sense, you recognize when your opponent's base is light, when their grips are weak, when their hips are too high, and you change your passing style instantly to take advantage. This awareness comes from exposure, not explanation. The more live scenarios you experience, the more patterns you see. And the more patterns you see, the faster your decision-making becomes. You stop thinking about moves and start thinking about moments. You can build game sense deliberately. Run rounds where your only focus is to read and react, not to force a specific move. Ask training partners to vary their style, speed, and pressure so you're constantly adjusting. Spend time rolling with people who are unpredictable, even chaotic, so you're forced to sharpen your reads. Game sense also means understanding tempo and momentum, when to push hard, when to slow down and wait, when to bait a reaction, when to explode through an opening. You're not just moving, you're controlling the rhythm of the match. This is why you'll see high-level athletes win against physically stronger or technically sharper opponents, because their game sense tells them exactly when and how to act. It's not magic and it's not luck, it's trained awareness. In the description, I've linked matches where game sense was the deciding factor. Watch them closely and you'll start to notice the same cues those athletes did, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. Chapter 18: The Value of Play. Somewhere along the way, many athletes forget that training can and should be fun. We get so focused on drilling, on perfect technique, on competition prep, that we lose the sense of play that made us fall in love with the sport in the first place. But in the ecological approach, play isn't just a break from serious training, it's a powerful tool for learning. Play creates an environment where creativity thrives. When you're experimenting without the pressure of winning every exchange, you start seeing possibilities you'd normally overlook. You try unusual grips, offbeat angles, and sequences you wouldn't dare attempt in a high-stakes role. Some of those experiments fail immediately. Others reveal hidden opportunities that later become key parts of your game. Think about kids learning Jiu-Jitsu. They roll in unpredictable, almost chaotic ways, but in that chaos, they're developing instincts and reactions that can't be taught through rigid drilling alone. They're not afraid to try, fail, and try again, because to them, it's all part of the game. As adults, we can recreate that same environment deliberately, run rounds where you intentionally step outside your usual style. If you're a guard player, play top for the whole session. If you're a pressure passer, spend the round attacking with speed and movement. If you're a submission hunter, try focusing on positional control instead. The goal is to remove the pressure of winning the round and replace it with curiosity. Play also has a unique way of lowering tension. When you're having fun, your movements are looser, your breathing is calmer, and your mind is more open to problem solving. You stop overthinking and start reacting naturally, exactly the state you want in competition. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in the sport have come from playful experimentation. New guards, new sweeps, even new submission systems were born because someone decided to mess around and discovered something worth keeping. In the description, I've linked examples of top-level grapplers talking about how play shaped their game. Take that as a reminder. You don't have to choose between serious training and enjoyment. In the ecological method, they're the same thing. Chapter 19: Designing Your Training Environment. Your environment is your silent coach. The way your rounds are set up, the partners you choose, even the space you train in, all of it shapes the way you learn. If you want to grow faster, you can't just show up and hope for the best. You have to design your environment so it constantly pushes you toward improvement. In the ecological approach, we look at the environment as part of the learning process, not just the background. Small changes in setup can create huge changes in what you learn. The right design makes the important skills unavoidable. If you want to sharpen your guard recovery, you can design rounds where you always start with your opponent already halfway through a pass. If you want to improve your back control, start with the seatbelt locked and one hook in, and let your partner work to escape while you focus on staying connected. If you want to sharpen your scrambling, train in a smaller space so you have to solve problems with efficiency instead of movement alone. You can also design the environment by choosing the right training partners for the skill you're working on. If you're trying to improve grip breaking, roll with the teammate who has the most stubborn grips in the room. If you're working on defense, pick someone who relentlessly hunts submissions. Your environment is as much about who you train with as how you train. One of the biggest mistakes athletes make is leaving their environment to chance. They come in, roll with whoever's free, and hope they get the kind of rounds they need. But the best athletes in the world are intentional. They engineer their training so the environment is always nudging them toward the next skill they need to develop. You can start doing this right now. Ask yourself, what skill do I most need to improve? Then, adjust your training so that skill gets tested in almost every round. Change the starting position, the rules, the space, or the partner until that skill becomes impossible to ignore. In the description, I've linked resources on how elite coaches design training environments for specific outcomes. Use them as inspiration, and remember, if you control your environment, you control your rate of growth. Chapter 20: Learning from Competition. Competition is the ultimate feedback loop. It strips away comfort, forces you into unpredictable situations, and shows you exactly where your training holds up and where it doesn't. But to get the most from it, you have to treat competition as a learning experience, not just a pass or fail test. In the ecological approach, competition isn't the end point, it's part of the training environment. It's just another scenario where the constraints are set, the stakes are higher, and the feedback is immediate. What you learn there can shape months of future training if you know how to process it. Win or lose. The first question after a match shouldn't be, did I win? But, what did I learn? Where did you feel comfortable? Where did you freeze? What patterns did you notice in your opponent's reactions? The answers to those questions are far more valuable than the medal. One of the best things about competition is how clearly it reveals your blind spots. You might dominate a position in the gym, but under the pressure of a match, you suddenly find it collapsing. That's not failure, that's your next training target. Now you know exactly where to focus when you go back to the mats. The ecological method makes this process even sharper. Instead of going back to static drills to fix the problem, you recreate the situation you struggled with. Live resistant and realistic. You keep working it until the weakness turns into a strength. That way, the lessons from competition feed directly into your growth. You don't have to compete every month to benefit from this mindset. Even if you only do a few tournaments a year, you can bring the competition feel into your training, simulate the intensity, put time on the clock, have teammates coach against you, make the stakes high enough that you feel that same adrenaline, and then learn to perform in it. When you treat competition as part of your learning process, the outcome matters less than the insight. And over time, those insights stack until you not only compete better, you train better too. Chapter 21: Mastery as a Moving Target. A lot of people think mastery is a finish line, a place you arrive at where the work is done. But in reality, mastery is a moving target. Every time you level up, the game changes. Your opponents get sharper, the problems get more complex, and the skills that carried you this far need to evolve if you want to keep climbing. In the ecological approach, we see mastery not as perfection, but as the ability to keep adapting over a lifetime. It's knowing that no matter how good you are, there's always another layer to explore, another weakness to turn into a strength, another skill to refine, another way to see the game. The best athletes in the world don't get bored with the basics. They revisit them constantly, testing them against new resistance, under new constraints, in new contexts. What worked 5 years ago might not work today, and they embrace that. They keep their game alive by letting it evolve. Think about guard retention. You might go through a period where no one can pass you. Then someone figures out a new grip sequence that gives you trouble. That's not a setback. It's a signpost pointing to your next stage of growth. You dive back in, redesign your approach, and come out with a guard that's stronger than ever. This is what keeps mastery exciting. It's never finished. There's always another challenge waiting. And if you're training in an ecological way, you're always ready for it, because your entire process is built on adapting, learning, and evolving. You can build this mindset into your own training by regularly asking, what's the next small edge I can add? What's the next weakness I can address? Where can I be more efficient, more unpredictable, more dangerous? Mastery isn't just about skill level, it's about refusing to stand still. In the description, I've linked interviews with athletes who've been at the top for decades. Listen to how they talk about their craft, not as something they've finished, but as something they're still chasing. That's why they've stayed at the top so long. If you've made it this far, you're not just a casual listener, You're the kind of person who cares about getting better, not just in technique, but in the way you think, train, and approach the game. That mindset alone puts you ahead of most people who step on the mats. The ecological approach isn't a magic formula, it's a commitment to learning in the most direct, realistic way possible, by putting yourself in the situations that actually happen, solving problems that actually matter, and letting the environment teach you as much as the coach does. It's about becoming a problem solver, not a move collector. Over the past chapters, we've covered everything from how constraints create freedom, to why variability matters, to the value of play, to redefining failure and chasing mastery as a moving target. If you apply even a fraction of this to your training, you will notice a change. You'll adapt faster. You'll see more openings. You'll stop freezing when the unexpected happens, because you'll already be used to solving problems in the moment. But here's the thing, this only works if you take it onto the mats. Don't just nod along and think, yeah, that makes sense. Pick one principle from today and use it in your very next session. It could be starting in a bad position. It could be removing one of your favorite tools so you're forced to explore others. It could be adding more play into your roles so you open up your creativity again. Whatever it is, test it, feel what happens, adjust. That's how this becomes part of your game. I'd love to know where you are in your journey. How long have you been training? What belt are you? Where in the world are you listening from? Drop it in the comments. You might even connect with other people training the same way in your area. And if you want to go deeper, I've linked books, matches, and training resources in the description. The same ones that shaped the way I think about Jiu-Jitsu. Some of them will challenge your perspective. Some will confirm what you've always felt deep down. All of them can help you grow. If this episode gave you something valuable, share it with a teammate. Save it so you can come back to the ideas when you need them. Because the truth is, what you've heard here might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to break through a plateau. And you could be the one who passes it forward. Keep learning, keep experimenting, and I'll see you on the mats. YouTube thinks you'll like this one next. It's right here in the middle of the screen. I'll see you there.